What's up, guys? Nito here, and welcome back to another episode of Noteworthy Interactions. So today I wanted to go over my league starter for 317 and just talk about some of the cool interactions I've discovered so far. And yeah, so let's get into it. So as you can see here, Burning Arrow has been buffed. They are actually lowering the base attack speed from 90 to 70%, but they are increasing the damage effectiveness. And the important thing here is that increased damage effectiveness is also going to apply to the roughly 200 to 300 fire damage that gets added to attacks against burning enemies. So it scales quite well off of flat added damage now. Overall, it's about a 10% buff, roughly 9-10%, something like that. Although I think that improves as you level it because the effectiveness actually scales off of gem level, in addition to the base added fire damage. So obviously Burning Arrow is normally played as an ignite build, but I actually wanted to try it as a hit-based build. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So partially because of the, just the flat damage that's on it is quite big and it has good damage effectiveness. And there's a lot of new sources of flat added damage in the game. And then the other reason is because I wanted to use Quill Rain. And why Quill Rain? So there is a new bow mastery on the tree that says increases and reductions to projectile speed also apply to damage with bows. And Quill Rain happens to have up to 100% increased projectile speed on it. Actually, in here, I only have 75. So like this actually even gets better. Yeah, so you can get up to 100% increased projectile speed on Quill Rain. It's also the fastest attacking weapon in the game, and it gives you some mana leech, so you kind of solves your mana problems. And it's obviously super easy to get your hands on this weapon, like very available. Even in SSF, you can probably find one pretty quickly. So yeah, I wanted to try to build around stacking up a bunch of flat damage, utilizing Quill Rain, and using this free 100% increased damage that you get from it now. And I ended up with this Deadeye tree. So just to look at the ascendancy first, we're taking Far Shot, we're taking projectile barrages have no spread so that we can kind of like shoot across the map with, laser some enemies, always fun. We're taking endless munitions for extra projectiles, which is gonna, increase the damage of our barrage quite significantly. So, Burning Arrow, we're using barrage support. We're also using Trinity and Immolate. I'll explain those in a second. Just getting back to the ascendancy here, though, we have Gale Force, Gathering Winds, Tailwind, pretty self-explanatory, and then Focal Point. So Focal Point is actually extremely good now. They buffed it. They changed it so that it has your mark transfers to another enemy when marked enemies die, which is really good. And then you also have the new mark on hit support. So it just gets, your mark's going to apply automatically. So that's going to feel really nice. And in addition to that, we also have this new mark mastery with 10% chance to gain a frenzy charge when you hit your marked enemy. So because of that, we're going to have frenzy charges up all the time while clearing and all the time while bossing, which is extremely valuable. And what else? So yeah, back to the skill. So the plan here was to use Sniper's Mark as our mark and, buff up the mark effect enough so that you're actually just getting a ton of extra projectiles as you shoot into it. And those projectiles are going to spread out and they're just going to hit everything. So really we're clearing with barrage, and obviously our single target is also with barrage. And in testing, it feels pretty smooth. It's because Burning Arrow doesn't have any kind of AoE component to it. It's not as good as some other bow skills at clearing, So, that's one thing to watch out for. It may turn out that like I need another setup for clearing. And in that case, I can always just have a weapon swap, right? Like I can just weapon swap Quill Rain to another Quill Rain and use, or, another bow or whatever, and use like Ice Shot or something. So that's easy enough to solve if that becomes an issue. So the other thing we're doing here is we're using Immolate because it's a huge amount of flat added fire against burning enemies. So it kind of works the same way as Burning Arrow, right? They both scale a bunch of flat fire damage against ignited enemies. And Burning Arrow has a base built-in chance to ignite as well. And then we are using Trinity support as well. So if we look at my calculations here, you can see how much cold damage and how much fire damage we're dealing. So our cold damage is like top end 51,000. Low end of fire damage is 48,000. So there's some slight overlap there, which means that Trinity will be active all the time, right? Because we're attacking extremely fast. We're attacking 5 times, we're barraging 5 times a second with, I don't know, 10 projectiles or something. So it's like 50 hits per second. So like 2 of those hits are going to, one of those hits is going to deal cold damage, and one of those hits is going to deal fire damage. So that's just going to keep your Trinity up all the time. So because of that, because we have so much flat fire from Burning Arrow and Immolate, where do we get the cold damage from? So one of those things is Herald of Ice. Doesn't add a ton of cold damage, but it's helpful. And this also definitely helps clear because we're going to be freezing enemies as well. And the rest of the cold damage most comes from gear. So, we have a bit of flat cold on our quiver. We have a Blizzard Crown, which has flat cold damage as an implicit. We're using Hyri's Ire for the flat cold damage to bow attacks, which, this is extremely important because that's a huge amount of flat cold damage. Plus, it has a nice chunk of suppress spell damage on it. So really valuable. And then, if you can get a corrupted one with +2 projectiles on it, even better. Because again, like I said, Burning Arrow now scales pretty well in terms of the effectiveness going up as you get additional levels on there. And then, we have some more flat fire against against ignited enemies on our gloves. That is a temple mod from Alva from Incursion. So you're going to want to look for that mod on gloves because it's quite a bit of fire damage. And then, some more flat cold on the rings, some more flat cold on the jewels. And, it doesn't really have to be these exact, items. These are kind of just placeholders, which I think should be fairly easy to obtain. Obviously this is a pretty nice ring. It's not going to be super cheap, but it's also not an insane ring by any means. So should be very obtainable. These jewels, I'm trying to stack as many Abyss jewels as possible because there's a new Atlas mod that allows Abyss jewels to drop with up to 6 modifiers on it. So I'm expecting some pretty crazy Abyss jewels to become available this league, which makes Darkness Enthroned just extremely valuable because it's going to increase the effect of all 6 of those mods on whatever we put in it. So, you can. We'll probably be able to find jewels just like this, probably even better than this. These aren't even top rules or anything. And I have another one down here as well. And then, so another thing I'll talk about is we're using the new Keystone Precise technique here. And we are stacking up a bit of accuracy so that we have more accuracy than life. So right now I have about 3,600 life. And most of our accuracy is coming from the tree. So we have some accuracy here. We got some from Farsight over here. I believe Master Fletcher, has a bit of accuracy on it. So just a couple random nodes with increased accuracy. We get a bunch actually from our flat dexterity because dexterity grants accuracy. And I think that's really it as far as accuracy on the tree goes. We actually don't need to really invest much into it. But in terms of items, what we're doing, so here we have a quiver with, but 500 to 600 accuracy on it. which you can get pretty easily by using, where is it? Deafening Essence of Doubt. So you can just see that here, Quivers, top tier accuracy roll. So basically, the plan is to just kind of spam these until I hit a decent quiver with, some flat cold damage, some life, the accuracy roll, maybe some projectile speed, because again, that counts as bow damage now. And yeah, we can just see what we get here. But, actually, ideally, you can get +1 projectiles now, +1 arrows on the quiver, because it's been moved to the base mod pool. So I don't even have that in my POB, but that would be a huge damage boost. And I am using a quiver that has 30% base accuracy, global accuracy on it. So that's one accuracy roll on there. And then the other accuracy roll is on gloves. So it's about 450. I don't think you even need that much. In total, we just want around 900 accuracy, flat accuracy on our gear, and that's all we need. And part of the reason we need so little is because our life pool is rather low because we're using Presence of Chayula. And this amulet is going to convert 20% of our maximum life into energy shield. So that's going to lower our maximum life, going to lower the amount of accuracy that we actually need in order to use that new keystone, which is really cool. But it also does something else here. It gives us a nice chunk of energy shield to use alongside Ghost Dance right here. Which, because we have roughly 50,000 evasion, Ghost Dance is going to be, recovering a huge chunk, basically our entire energy shield pool every time we get hit. So that's just like a really nice defensive mechanic, right? Because we have so much evasion that we're not going to get hit very often, but when we do, it's just like immediately we're going to just like pop back up to full in terms of the energy shield there. So that is quite valuable. Plus it makes us stun immune, which is great. Gives us a ton of chaos res, also great. So, I think this is going to be probably the hardest item here to acquire, just because it does require Blessing of Chayula to upgrade it, and that might not be available for first couple days or whatever until people start running Chayula. But should be fairly easy to obtain after that. And yeah, the rest of the gear, like, it's all pretty League Start gear, right? Like in Series Step, this can be any rare with life, movement, speed, spell suppression on it. Like, doesn't have to be at Series Step. It's just easy to get your hands on one of these early in the league. If you can get that enchantment on there, that's also quite nice, because the damage penetration applies to both the cold and fire damage that we're dealing. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the gear. Like, I have flasks in here. Like, you can use an Xerius flask, you can use a Dying Sun, and that kind of juices up your damage a bit, but like, obviously those aren't going to be up all the time, or it's going to take a while to get a Dying Sun probably at League Start. So I didn't include that in kind of the DPS here, but still 3.5 million DPS is pretty respectable, especially on a Quill Rain. So that's kind of it for the gear. In terms of other stuff we're doing here, like, I have Enhance and Power in here, which it's actually a considerable amount of damage if you kind of juice up Sniper's Mark, because we have so much extra. We're taking like 25% increased effective marks here. I believe there's some extra mark effect, right here as well. So like, we have a pretty, and then like Focal Point also has 75% increased effective your mark. So like, the more you can juice up Sniper's Mark, just the better it's going to be. And it's so much extra damage now. And because you can use Mark on Hit, it's going to apply to, while you're clearing, and then it's as soon as an enemy dies, it transfers to another enemy. So I think it's going to be pretty solid in terms of clearing with Sniper's Mark. One thing I think I still have to figure out is kind of the mana situation, because I know that the Mark on Hit support has a really big mana multiplier on it. I think GGG may have said they were looking into that and might be changing it, but as far as I know, they haven't announced anything there yet. So yeah, for now, I might need to tweak my reservation a bit or find some mana rules on gear so that I just have like at least 100 mana available. But in terms of mana costs, like we also have life gain on hit and mana gain on hit from here, and like life and mana leech right here. And then the Quillran has +2 mana gain on hit, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but because we're attacking 5 times a second and, you know, we're barraging with like 10 projectiles, so that's like 50 times 2 mana, or 4 mana actually, because of this one. So that's like a lot of mana. You know, it's not going to be a problem to sustain this mana cost at all, really. And then plus, in addition to that, I also took replenishing remedies just so I have some extra life flasks and mana flasks available, and utility flask recharge as well. So like during longer boss fights, that'll keep you topped up. Yeah, and then what else is there? Oh, I guess so. We're coming down here. We're grabbing the onslaught on kill, onslaught effect, and then this one's really important. This mastery gives you 5% of your evasion rating as extra armor. So you can see I have 16,000 armor here because I have so much evasion. A bunch of that gets converted into armor, and then we're also running the classic Determination, Grace, and Defiance banner, which is just gonna give you a ton of evasion and armor. And you can get even more from flasks. This is without flasks, so it's quite a bit. It's quite tanky because we have so much armor. We can run Vol Molten Shell. You can also run Vol Grace if you want. So yeah, that's pretty much that. And then the last thing is that our other setup is Tornado. Because we're a projectile skill, you can attack the tornado and just like pump projectiles into it. It'll do some extra damage. I don't really know how much extra damage it does exactly. It's not included in this damage here, so like it'll be probably something like 30% more damage or something like that. I know it can go up to 40%, but there's some breakpoints with how many times you can hit it, and I don't know exactly how much damage it's going to deal. But then you can link it to onslaught support so that during boss fights, you can actually proc onslaught off of your tornado, which is great because this has a chance to proc on hitting a unique enemy, and tornado always hits 4 times a second. So it's a decent chance of keeping onslaught up, which is nice. And then we also have combustion here so that we can get the negative fire res. Increased duration increases the just makes your tornado and your onslaught buff last longer. And then we have wave of conviction for our exposure, which also benefits from combustion and increased duration and all these things. And then last, the last slot here I just stuck in blind, but you can really use anything. I don't know if there might be other supports that are useful here, but I just went for blind because why not? Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think I covered just about everything. Oh, the other thing, just like this Thread of Hope here is so ridiculously good. This is a large Thread of Hope. So ridiculously good for any elemental bow build, because you hit Master Fletcher, King of the Hill, you hit extra Pierce or Fork, you hit Forces of Nature, you hit Wind Dancer in the new location here. You hit Aspect of the Eagle. You hit, Quick Step, One with Nature, and Primeval Force. It's just ridiculously efficient to use this large Thread of Hope here. Like, it's insane. And it might be the best spot for a Thread of Hope on the entire treaty. It's pretty awesome. And then, what else do we have? We have... Oh yeah, chaos damage cannot bypass energy shield just because we have a very low amount of life. So having 30% of that hit your energy shield is going to help just kind of keep us alive. And then we also have some energy shield leech, elemental damage leeches energy shield from this mastery over here. And this is also buffing both fire and cold damage, which obviously is what we're doing. And we have capped spell suppression, which is great. We're taking Leaf Shade for the less damage over time. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much covers it, I think. So this is probably going to be my league starter. Hopefully it goes the way I think it'll go, which, it's definitely experimental, so we'll see. but it seems like it'll be pretty tanky and has a decent amount of DPS. Although I will mention that like this is DPS with far shot, so you know, if the enemy gets in your face, like if you know they're 20 units away, the DPS kind of gets cut in half, but it's still 1.6 mil is not that bad. So ideally though, you want to be at least 70 units away when you're shooting. And because we have so much projectile speed and so much attack speed, it's actually not that hard to, you know, hit enemies on the other side of the screen, right? Like even with barrage, right? Because we have the whole laser barrage thing going on here. So hopefully it works out. That's what I'm planning on playing. I can't necessarily recommend it as a build to you because I haven't played it and I don't know how it performs. So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say try it, but I'm going to try it. That's about it. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope your league start goes well, and see you Friday.